Rachel had dreams, big dreams. She yearned for a life filled with love, laughter, and purpose. She imagined a future where she could make a difference, where her life would mean something. She graduated high school with honors, a testament to her intelligence and drive. The world, it seemed, was her oyster. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Tragedy struck, shattering Rachel's carefully constructed world. Her mother, the rock of their family, fell ill. The illness was sudden, swift, and merciless. Despite the doctor's best efforts, Rachel's mother succumbed to her illness, leaving a gaping hole in Rachel's life. The medical bills piled up, a constant reminder of their loss. Rachel's father, a factory worker, struggled to make ends meet. He worked double shifts, his hands calloused, his spirit slowly breaking under the weight of responsibility. Rachel, desperate to help, took on odd jobs, but it was never enough. The walls of their small apartment seemed to close in, suffocating her with their despair. The laughter was gone, replaced by a heavy silence. The dreams she once held so dear seemed to slip away, like sand through her fingers. The world, once full of possibilities, had transformed into a dark and unforgiving place. Rachel's once bright eyes now held a haunted look. The weight of their situation pressed down on her, stealing her youth and innocence. She found herself walking down streets she had promised herself she would never go near. The lure of fast money, of a way to ease her family's burden, became too strong to resist. She started working the streets, her heart breaking with each degrading encounter. Each night she donned a mask of indifference, hiding the shame and fear that gnawed at her soul. The men who came to her were strangers, their touch leaving her feeling emptier than ever. The world of prostitution was a dangerous one, filled with predators lurking in the shadows. Pimps and traffickers saw her vulnerability, a lamb ripe for the slaughter. They promised her protection, a way out of her situation, but their words were laced with venom, their smiles a sinister facade. Rachel was trapped, ensnared in a web of exploitation and abuse. The money she earned went straight into the pockets of her tormentors, leaving her with nothing but scars, both physical and emotional. She became a ghost of her former self, her dreams replaced by a desperate struggle for survival. The man they called Silas became Rachel's nightmare incarnate. He was a predator in expensive shoes, a wolf disguised in a sharkskin suit. His grip on Rachel tightened slowly at first, a favor here, a threat there, until she was his, body and soul. Silas ran his operation with an iron fist, his network of girls spreading across the city like a virus. He demanded absolute obedience, his punishment swift and brutal. Rachel witnessed girls who defied him disappear, their fates whispered in hushed tones in the back rooms of dingy bars. The streets became her prison, the cheap motel rooms her cage. Each night was a terrifying descent into hell, a parade of faceless men and their insatiable desires. The shame she carried was a heavy cloak, smothering her, stealing the air from her lungs. She clung to the memory of her mother, of her father's love, a lifeline in the swirling vortex of despair. But even those precious memories were fading, replaced by a numbing emptiness. The girl who once dreamed of a brighter future was gone, replaced by a shell of a woman, broken and defeated. The days blurred into an endless cycle of drugs, alcohol, and forced smiles. Rachel existed in a haze, her body a commodity to be bought, sold, and discarded. The drugs numbed the pain, but they also chipped away at her soul, leaving her hollow and lost. There were moments fleeting and rare when the mask would slip, and a flicker of the old Rachel would emerge. A shared joke with another girl, a moment of kindness from a stranger, a song on the radio that reminded her of happier times. But these moments were always short-lived, extinguished by the harsh realities of her existence. She tried to escape, to break free from Silas's clutches, but he always found her. He had eyes everywhere, his informants whispering in his ear, keeping him one step ahead. Each failed attempt at escape only strengthened his hold on her, his punishments becoming more severe, more terrifying. Hope, once a burning flame within her, dwindled to a faint ember, threatening to be extinguished by the relentless darkness that surrounded her. The world had turned its back on her, leaving her stranded in a desolate wasteland of despair. She was a ghost, a shadow, invisible to the world that passed her by. Section 3. A Glimmer in the Darkness. One rainy Tuesday night, as Rachel stood on her usual corner, her body aching, her spirit broken, a car pulled up. It was a sleek black sedan, out of place in this rundown part of town. A man stepped out, tall and well-dressed, his face hidden in the shadows. He was different from the usual clientele, a sense of quiet sadness emanating from him. His name was Alex, and he was unlike anyone Rachel had encountered before. He wasn't interested in the usual transaction, the fleeting physical release. He wanted to talk, to listen, to understand. He offered her a cigarette, his eyes reflecting a strange mix of compassion and pain. Rachel, wary at first, found herself drawn to his quiet demeanor. She had spent so long surrounded by predators that his gentleness was disarming. She told him her story, her words tumbling out in a torrent of pain and despair. She spoke of her dreams, her shattered hopes, and the nightmare her life had become. Alex listened intently, his silence not judgmental, but understanding. He didn't offer platitudes or empty promises, he simply listened, his eyes reflecting the storm raging within her. And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, Rachel felt seen, truly seen, not just as a commodity, but as a human being. Section 1. An unlikely connection. Their conversations continued night after night. Alex would find Rachel on her corner and they would drive, the city lights a blurry kaleidoscope through the rain-streaked windows. He learned about her childhood, her dreams of becoming a writer, her love for her family, a love that fueled her descent into this abyss. Rachel, in turn, discovered that Alex was a businessman, trapped in a gilded cage of his own making. His life was a whirlwind of board meetings, power lunches, and empty victories. He had a wife, distant and cold, their marriage a business arrangement devoid of love or passion. They were two souls, adrift in a sea of indifference, finding solace in their shared loneliness. He saw past the hardened exterior, the mask she wore to survive, recognizing the intelligent, compassionate woman beneath the surface. And she saw in him a glimmer of hope, a beacon of light in the suffocating darkness. Their connection deepened, evolving from client and prostitute to something akin to friendship, a dangerous and forbidden bond in their world. They found comfort in their shared vulnerability, their late-night conversations a lifeline in their otherwise desolate lives. Section 2. Shared Solitudes. Alex began to bring her gifts, a warm scarf on a chilly night, a book of poetry he thought she might like, a single red rose that brought a flicker of color to her drab motel room. These small acts of kindness, so foreign in her world of brutality, chipped away at the wall around her heart. He encouraged her to write again, to give voice to the pain and hope that resided within her. He brought her a notebook, its pages blank and full of promise. At first, the words came slowly, hesitant, like a wounded bird learning to fly again. But with each sentence, Rachel felt a part of herself returning, a spark igniting in the ashes of her despair. Their encounters became less about physical intimacy and more about shared moments of humanity. They would walk along the river, his hand brushing against hers, a silent language passing between them. They talked about their dreams, their fears, their longing for a life beyond the shadows that held them captive. Rachel found herself looking forward to their meetings, a glimmer of light in the darkness that threatened to consume her. Alex's presence was a balm to her wounded soul, his quiet strength a lifeline in the storm that raged within her. Section 3. Seeds of Hope. One night as they sat in his car, the silence broken only by the rhythmic swish of the windshield wipers, Alex confessed his love for Rachel. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken emotions. Rachel, taken aback by the depth of his feelings, could only stare at him, her heart pounding in her chest. She had never allowed herself to believe that someone like him could love someone like her. She was tainted, broken, damaged beyond repair. Yet, in his eyes, she saw not judgment, but acceptance, a love that transcended the circumstances of their meeting. His love for her was a dangerous thing, a threat to the carefully constructed walls she had built around her heart. To love him was to risk unimaginable pain, to expose her vulnerability in a world that preyed on the weak. But it was also a lifeline, a chance at a life she had never dared to dream possible. Their love blossomed in the shadows, a fragile flower pushing through the cracks in the concrete. It was a love born of despair yet fueled by hope, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Section 4. A Dangerous Promise. I want to help you escape, Alex whispered, his voice barely audible above the rain drumming on the car roof. His words, spoken with such conviction, sent a jolt through Rachel's body. Escape. The word echoed in her mind. A distant dream. Impossible. Dangerous. She had tried to break free from Silas's clutches before, her attempts met with brutal consequences. The memory of those beatings, the fear that lingered in her bones, made her recoil from Alex's offer. "You don't understand," she whispered back, her voice raw with unshed tears. "He'll find me. He always finds me." Alex reached for her hand, his touch gentle yet firm. "Not this time," he said, his voice laced with a determination she had never heard before. "We'll disappear. We'll start a new life. Together, far away from here." His words, spoken with such conviction, ignited a flicker of hope in Rachel's heart, a hope she had thought long extinguished. But escaping Silas would be no easy feat. He was a predator, cunning and ruthless, with eyes and ears everywhere. To defy him was to invite his wrath, a wrath that could be swift and deadly. Yet, as Rachel looked into Alex's eyes, she saw a strength that matched her own, a love that fueled his determination to save her. And for the first time since her descent into this nightmare, she dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, escape was possible. Section 1. Whispers and Walls. Alex's world, a world of polished boardrooms and calculated risks, began to shift. The lines blurred. His focus wavered. He found himself unable to concentrate on spreadsheets and profit margins, his mind consumed by thoughts of Rachel trapped in her personal darkness. Whispers started. At first, just murmurs, ripples of confusion in his well-ordered life. His business partners, accustomed to his sharp focus and unwavering ambition, noticed his distraction. His wife, cold and calculating, saw his emotional distance as an annoyance, a wrinkle in their carefully crafted facade. The whispers grew louder, fueled by gossip and speculation. Word spread through the grapevine, a toxic vine that choked the life out of truth. The story, twisted and exaggerated with each retelling, painted Alex as a fool, a man blinded by infatuation, a savior stumbling through a world he didn't understand. He became the subject of jokes, the punchline to cruel jests whispered in hushed tones at exclusive clubs and charity galas. His world, once defined by success and admiration, now felt cold, the smiles strained, the handshakes lacking warmth. The ridicule stung, but it was the betrayal that cut the deepest. Friends, once quick with backslaps and invitations to weekend getaways, distanced themselves. Their silence spoke volumes, their absence a constant reminder of the social currency he was rapidly losing. His business partners, sensing weakness, saw an opportunity. They questioned his judgment, his stability, his ability to lead. Deals fell through, investments dried up. The walls of his carefully constructed empire began to crumble. His wife, her patience exhausted, saw his growing obsession with Rachel as a threat, a disruption to their comfortable arrangement. Their arguments, once contained and civilized, escalated, their words like shards of glass, sharp and cutting. Alex found himself increasingly isolated, his world shrinking, the whispers and judgment forming an impenetrable barrier. The price of compassion, he was discovering, was steep, a lonely and unforgiving path fraught with unforeseen consequences. Yet, even as his world crumbled around him, Alex's resolve to help Rachel never wavered. The more they tried to shame him, the stronger his determination grew. He saw the hypocrisy, the cruelty masked by their feigned concern, and it fueled his desire to protect her from their judgment. He began to formulate a plan, meticulous and daring, to extricate Rachel from Silas's grasp. He knew it wouldn't be easy. Silas was a predator, cunning and well-connected, his tentacles reaching deep into the city's underbelly. He contacted a lawyer, a woman known for her discretion and her ability to navigate the murky waters of human trafficking. She listened intently as he outlined his plan, her silence broken only by the tap, tap, tap of her pen against a legal pad. He gathered information, piecing together Silas's network, identifying weaknesses, exploiting vulnerabilities. He knew that their escape would be fraught with danger, a desperate gamble against a ruthless adversary, but he was willing to risk everything to save her. The air crackled with a nervous energy as Alex waited for Rachel at their designated meeting point, a nondescript diner on the outskirts of the city. He had chosen it for its anonymity, its lack of connection to either of their worlds. He clutched a duffel bag containing cash, fake IDs, and a change of clothes, the weight of their escape pressing down on him. Rachel arrived breathless, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. She had left everything behind, her meager belongings, the few possessions that held any sentimental value, even the notebook Alex had given her, its pages filled with her hopes and fears. To bring anything with her would be to risk exposure, a trail leading Silas directly to them. They slipped into his car, a nondescript sedan chosen for its ability to blend in, and melted into the pre-dawn traffic. Alex drove with a practiced ease, his every sense on high alert, scanning for any sign of surveillance, any hint that Silas's men were on their trail. The city, once familiar and comforting, now felt like a labyrinth of shadows and danger. Every car that passed, every pedestrian on the street corner, could be an informant, an accomplice to their pursuers. The tension inside the car was palpable, a suffocating silence punctuated by the rhythmic thump of Rachel's heart against her ribs. Section 2. The Hunt. Days turned into nights as they drove, their journey a blur of highways and back roads, their destination a moving target, constantly shifting to avoid detection. Alex had chosen a route that maximized their anonymity, avoiding major cities and well-traveled highways, relying instead on his knowledge of forgotten byways and rural shortcuts. They slept in cheap motels, their windows covered with blankets, their doors bolted shut. They ate on the run, greasy food from roadside diners, their meals consumed in tense silence, their eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. The fear was a living thing, a constant presence that gnawed at their nerves. They knew that Silas had eyes and ears everywhere, his reach extending far beyond the city limits. The threat of capture hung over them like a dark cloud, a constant reminder of the danger they were in. One night, while refueling at a desolate gas station, Alex noticed a black SUV parked across the street, its engine idling, its occupants watching them with an unnerving intensity. He knew, with a sickening certainty, that they had been found. Section 3. Across the border, into the unknown. Adrenaline surged through Alex as he threw the car into gear, the tires squealing in protest as they sped away from the gas station, the black SUV in hot pursuit. A desperate race against time ensued, a high-stakes game of cat and mouse played out on the asphalt arteries of rural America. He pushed the car to its limits, the engine screaming in protest as he weaved through traffic, desperate to shake their pursuers. Rachel, her face pale, her knuckles white as she gripped the dashboard, could only watch in terror as the landscape whizzed by in a blur of green and brown. Their pursuers were relentless, their driving skills honed on the mean streets of the city, their determination fueled by Silas's wrath. But Alex had a plan, a desperate gamble that hinged on his knowledge of the backroads, his ability to outmaneuver his pursuers, to lead them on a wild goose chase that would buy them precious time. As dawn broke, painting the eastern sky with hues of pink and orange, they found themselves approaching the Canadian border, a thin line on the map separating their past from their uncertain future. Their pursuers were closing in, their headlights growing larger in the rearview mirror, their presence a tangible threat. Alex took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest, and made a sharp turn onto a dirt road that led towards the border. The car bounced and swerved as it navigated the rough terrain, but Alex pressed on, his eyes fixed on the prize, the promise of freedom that lay just beyond the horizon. Section 1. Sanctuary. The Canadian border guard, a kind-faced woman with tired eyes, looked at their documents, her gaze lingering on their faces, sensing their desperation beneath the facade of normalcy. She asked no questions, her silence a testament to her years of experience, her intuition telling her that these were two souls in need of sanctuary. She waved them through, her simple gesture carrying the weight of their ordeal, the promise of a new beginning. As they drove across the border, leaving behind the fear and the shadows that had haunted their lives, a wave of relief washed over them, so profound it felt like a physical sensation. They had escaped. They were free. Canada embraced them with open arms, its vastness a stark contrast to the claustrophobic confines of their past. They found refuge in a small town nestled amidst rolling hills and sparkling lakes, a world away from the urban jungle that had held them captive. The air was clean, the pace of life slower, the people welcoming, their smiles genuine, their eyes devoid of judgment. Rachel began the arduous process of healing, her wounded spirit slowly mending under the care of a therapist who listened without judgment. her words a soothing balm to her battered soul. The nightmares that had haunted her sleep began to fade, replaced by dreams of a brighter future, a future where love and laughter filled her days. Section 2. Shadows to Sunsets. Alex, stripped of his former life, found solace in the simplicity of their new existence. He took a job as a carpenter, his hands, once accustomed to the feel of expensive pens and boardroom tables, now calloused and strong, finding satisfaction in the creation of something tangible, something beautiful. He had lost his fortune, his status, his place in the world he once knew, but he had found something far more valuable: peace, purpose, and a love that had redeemed him. Their love, forged in the crucible of shared adversity, had only grown stronger. They had faced their demons together, their bond unbreakable, their commitment to each other unwavering. Their love story, once whispered in hushed tones, became a beacon of hope, a testament to the transformative power of compassion and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Years passed, seasons changed, and the shadows of their past receded, replaced by the warm glow of sunsets over the lake. They built a life together, a life filled with love, laughter, and the quiet contentment that comes from knowing they had faced their fears and emerged stronger, their spirits unbroken. Rachel, her passion for writing rekindled, found her voice, her words flowing onto the page with an honesty and rawness that resonated with readers. Her story, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, became a beacon of hope for others trapped in the darkness, a reminder that even in the darkest of nights, the sun will rise again. And as they sat on their porch, hand in hand, watching the sun paint the sky with hues of orange, pink, and purple, they knew with a certainty that transcended words that they had won. They had triumphed over adversity, defied the odds, and emerged from the shadows into the warm embrace of the setting sun. Their journey, once defined by despair, had led them to a love that had illuminated their lives, a love that had shown them that even in the darkest of times, hope can bloom and love can conquer all.